And I will tell this House, Mr. Chairman, about why the Biju Janata Dal feels that this is a misplaced motion, totally out of place at this point in time, to be brought to this House. Mr. Naveen Patnaik is now in his 5th term as Chief Minister of Odisha consecutively. He is now the 2nd longest serving Chief Minister in the country. He has just crossed late Shri Jyoti Basu's tenure in West Bengal. He is now only behind Mr. Pawan Chamling in Sikkim. And next year in August 2024, by the grace of Lord Jagannath, when he is elected for the 6th time as Chief Minister, he will cross Mr. Pawan Chamling's tenure and become the longest serving Chief Minister ever in the history of India. And I am very glad to say, my heart is gladdened that somebody like Shri Amit Shah ji was in Bhubaneswar on Saturday in the presence of many of our distinguished colleagues here. Aparajita Sarangi ji was there as well, I think, our Honorable Bhubaneswar MP. Shri Shah very graciously said that it is without doubt that Mr. Naveen Patnaik is India's most popular Chief Minister. These were Mr. Amit Shah's own words. And he also praised Mr. Patnaik for the cooperative federalism and the constructive cooperation with the centre that he has demonstrated in his last 24 years as Chief Minister. He doesn't believe in needlessly picking quarrels with the central government. It doesn't pay. We are a regional party. In the kind of fiscal architecture our constitution has provided, it is impossible to continuously bicker and fight with the central government and survive as a model fiscal state as Odisha is today. Particularly if you are needlessly, constantly heckling the central government, because that doesn't obtain to the interests of the people of the state. This is Mr. Patnaik's firm view. He believes that, yes, party politics has its place, there is no question. And that's why I said the other day when I was speaking on the Delhi bill, the BJP is our principal opposition party in the state and we fight them tooth and nail when elections are concerned. But once elections are over, then that should be the end of party politics. Then governance kicks in. And for governance to kick in, you have to rise above partisan party politics and work in partnership with constructive cooperation in a federal structure. That's what Mr. Patnaik has always believed in, and that's what Amit Shah ji, in fact, said, that this is the reason that I appreciate Mr. Patnaik's role as Chief Minister. I cannot support a no-confidence motion against a central government today, even though we are against the BJP as a political party. But a central government which may not have given us our entire wish list. No central government ever can give every state government's entire wish list. I recognize that fact. There are fiscal constraints where resources are in short supply, and therefore it's not possible for every central government to give in to every state government demand. But in terms of rise in coal production, in terms of mineral royalty revision, which has long been Odisha's just demand, in terms of the removal of an export tax on iron ore and manganese ore, which was vital for Odisha's fiscal management. In terms of, the other day there was a bill for exploration of offshore minerals, which has long been our demand. In terms of, in my constituency, a Puri International Airport, which has again long been a dream of the people of Puri. Now that is well underway. Yesterday, Mr. Sindhya very kindly said in the House that it is virtually in the last stages of completion of plans, and therefore construction should start very soon. In terms of the Puri Heritage, Jagannath Puri Heritage Corridor, which was opposed by some of my distinguished colleagues, I shall not name them, but which the central government ensured the ASI gave permission for it. So I am grateful, therefore, for many things that the central government has done for Odisha, which is why, in any case, I am unable to persuade myself on behalf of my party and my leader to support a no-confidence motion today, which has been brought by the Congress party. Let me now come to the merits of this particular no-confidence motion that they have allegedly brought on one count alone, that is to bring the Prime Minister to the House. That seems to be the reason why this no-confidence has been moved. that the Prime Minister should be brought to this House. He is avoiding the House and avoiding speaking on Manipur. Mr. Chairman, I have always believed that the Congress party is adept at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. They are also very adept at cutting their nose to spite their face. And I say this advisedly. They know every time the Prime Minister has got up to speak on the floor of this House, and I think his worst political adversaries will recognize the fact that he is a peerless orator. There is no question. I don't think there is an orator today in India who matches him. There's no question. Everybody recognizes that fact. So every time he gets up on the floor of the House, he puts the Congress party through the shredder. I mean, they actually go through a shredding machine. So I cannot understand why they should cut their nose to spite their face, ask him to come to the House and put them through the shredder, as I have no doubt he will when he replies on Thursday. So this defies common sense, it defies logic, it defies political sense. I believe that there are other arguments that would have been more persuasive. The people of this country will decide if the Prime Minister has chosen not to speak, whether that was right or that was wrong. It's for the people to decide. And you have to take that case to the people. You don't bring a no confidence which is doomed to fail in any case. At the threshold, you know your no confidence is doomed to fail. You don't bring it needlessly and waste the time of the House. You don't disrupt the House needlessly when you know that the ruling party likes nothing better than the House being disrupted so that bills can be passed in the din. So ministers are happy not to answer any questions in question hour. This is, for every ruling party, this is a dream scenario. They let the opposition disrupt parliament so that we can go home and sleep happily. So therefore, this kind of disruptive politics has not paid dividend in the past, and I have no doubt that this kind of disruptive politics will not pay dividend in the future. As far as Manipur is concerned, I have to say that the Honorable Home Minister had called an all-party meeting. I was one of the members who was present there on behalf of my party. It was a exceptionally detailed analysis which was given to everybody. The Congress party was represented there by Shri Ibobi Singh, the 3-term former Chief Minister. All the other parties were there, and we were given a complete kaleidoscope really of what has gone wrong in Manipur. And these are legacy issues. Manipur is not the result, today's conflagration in Manipur is not the result of the last 10 years, let's face it. It's the result of almost 50 to 60 years of strife in Manipur. The fact of the matter is that this entire issue has boiled over, not now, it has boiled over 3 or 4 times in a major way through the 80s and the 90s. This was somehow capped until, very unfortunately, the Manipur High Court in a PIL suddenly woke up one fine morning. In a 20-minute hearing without pleadings being completed, the High Court passed what according to me is one of the most ill-advised orders that this country has ever seen, of giving a direction to the state government to immediately consider within 4 weeks the giving of ST status to a particular community. Firstly, this is totally without jurisdiction because the state government can't do it. It's something only the central government can do. So the High Court not only passed a totally erroneous order, but passed an order without hearing all the parties, without affidavits being completed, without any kind of rationale or logic. It simply passed an order which the Supreme Court severely deprecated. The Chief Justice's Court on 19th of May severely deprecated the High Court order. But I believe the central government missed a trick there. I believe the central government, in asking for the matter to be remanded back to the High Court to be heard there, was a huge error. And I pointed this out at the meeting, that the central government should have been happy to let the matter rest in the Supreme Court's lap. Because we have seen that the people of this country have great faith in the Supreme Court. Look at the classic case of Babri Masjid, Ram Janmabhoomi dispute. For decades, this dispute could not be resolved until the Supreme Court sat down, gave a judgment, and both parties accepted it graciously. So I believe that if this issue had been left to the Supreme Court, tempers would have cooled. Instead, the matter went back to the High Court, and the High Court, again in a totally ill-advised order, instead of cancelling the last order, simply revised the order and said, all right, instead of 4 weeks, you take 1 year to decide this matter. Which means the sword of Damocles, therefore, kept hanging, and this is what has constantly created the kind of friction that we have seen. Mr. Chairman, I have to say that what has happened in Manipur today is, as Mr. Patnaik says, heart-rending. And he has asked me to, in fact, mention in the all-party meeting and to speak today and say that all parties must speak in one voice. What this parliament cannot afford is a no-confidence motion against the central government, because every political party must give their constructive suggestion at the moment to say what is possible, what can be done, because you are really trying to fit a square peg in a round hole there. That's the problem today. So therefore, you have to give constructive suggestions rather than blaming the central government for what is clearly a legacy issue running back several decades. There is no question that blame has to be apportioned to the state government. Every right-thinking person has said so. Every right-thinking person has said that the Chief Minister ought to have conducted his politics and his policies on the basis of Raj Dharma, which perhaps has been lacking there. There is no doubt about it. But I don't know whether the central government would have been better advised to have brought in President's rule, because clearly there was no alternative to this Chief Minister. Therefore, if the President's rule had to be imposed there, I'm not sure that in this country has ever worked satisfactorily in other states as well. So it is really a Hobson's choice and that the central government was confronted with. And that is something that I think all political parties honestly should have considered and should have felt, therefore, that the need of the hour is to speak in one voice and not to speak in a fractious tone. And I'm going to conclude in a short while. The heart-rending scenes that we have seen with regard to the atrocities on women in Manipur is not new to us. This is seen everywhere in the world where there is strife, where there is this kind of conflict, where there is this sort of internecine warfare. We have seen this in sub-Saharan African nations, in Burundi, between the Hutus and the Tutsis. We've seen this in Rwanda, for instance. We've seen this in Bosnia-Herzegovina. We've seen this in Serbia. So this is endemic, unfortunately, to our society and our polity. And therefore, I come to this one seminal issue, that the way forward for women's empowerment is again what Mr. Naveen Patnaik has been repeatedly requesting the central government to bring in the Women's Reservation Bill. And I think that is one area where the central government will be seriously remiss if in the 17th Lok Sabha they don't do it, because there is a full majority. In fact, there is near unanimity. Today, all shades of political opinion in this House and the upper house are of the same opinion, that there should be women's reservation in the state assemblies as well as in central parliament. Because that is the kind of empowerment we need for women on the ground level, at the cutting edge level, at the grassroots level, to feel empowered, to feel that they have an equal stake in society, and for men to therefore feel that, look, they are now our equals, they are in as powerful position as we are, so therefore we should treat them at par. So, Mr. Chairman, this is something that I would seriously on this occasion, if there is anything on which I feel that this government, I think, lacks the confidence of this House, quite frankly, is that they have not brought, despite being fully empowered to do so, the Women's Reservation Bill so far. We have now only one more session of Parliament after this, which is the winter session. I certainly plead and urge the Prime Minister that he should bring in the Women's Reservation Bill, have it passed unanimously. It can be done in 15 minutes in the lower house and the upper house. Parliamentary Affairs Minister is here. I have requested him personally many times also. But they're saying that it is lapsed now. Because I know it should not. I don't know, I was told. But in any case, so that is one of the things that we need to seriously consider. Now, therefore, for a number of compelling reasons that I have mentioned, we are completely unable to persuade ourselves on behalf of the Biju Janata Dal and Mr. Naveen Patnaik to support this no confidence motion. I have no doubt that it will be resoundingly defeated and it will be rejected as it ought to. And unfortunately, I think it will not at all benefit the Congress party to have brought this no confidence at this point. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman, sir. एक बहुत गंभीर विषय पर अविश्वास का प्रस्ताव।
दर्शक बंधु आपण मैंने सीधा सड़क लोकसभा चित्र देखिपे जो सांसद पिनाकी मिश्र निजर अभिभाषण रखुते लो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन को नहीं। दर्शक बंधु बर्तमान समय होइछे एक छोटिया ब्रेक पर देखिबा।